General election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Mayoral candidate being challenged. The saga.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, has finally been apprehended by authorities following an extensive FBI raid that exposed the full extent of her years-long pattern of corruption, abuse of power, and lavish spending. Once hailed as a promising leader, Henyard's fall from grace has been swift and dramatic, with her facing 22 federal charges, including misappropriation of funds and financial concealment. Her extravagant lifestyle, funded by taxpayer dollars, starkly contrasted with the deteriorating financial situation of Dalton, a town on the brink of bankruptcy. While the mayor flaunted her wealth, the community was left to deal with the consequences of her reckless spending and financial mismanagement. Henyard's reign of excess, marked by lavish shopping sprees, high-end travel, and personal indulgences, came at the expense of the very town she was supposed to serve. As Dalton's economy continued to spiral into crisis, Henyard lived as though she were royalty, funding her indulgent lifestyle with public money while the residents struggled. The tipping point came when the FBI, after a long investigation, executed a series of subpoenas, confirming long-standing rumors about Henyard's corrupt activities. This is not Henyard's first encounter with the law. She had a previous conviction for trespassing, but the charges she now faces are far more serious and extensive. The 22 federal charges against her could result in up to 25 years in prison. One of the most shocking revelations is that Henyard used taxpayer funds to finance personal shopping trips, including a $7,700 spree at Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair on September 1, 2023. While hard-working Dalton residents struggled to make ends meet, they were unaware that their tax dollars were being siphoned off to fund the mayor's extravagant tastes instead of using her position to improve the community. Henyard treated the mayor's office as her personal playground. She had police officers run errands for her, essentially turning them into a VIP security detail. Meanwhile, her excessive travel habits drained Dalton's finances, with more than $122,000 spent on trips, leaving the town's $5.6 million surplus depleted and a $36 million deficit in its wake. Perhaps the most shocking instance of her wastefulness was a single driveway project that cost the town a staggering $561,000, an amount that could have been used to address critical community needs, but instead went to maintain Henyard's image and lifestyle, from hiring professional hair and cosmetics teams to enjoying taxpayer-funded motorcades. Henyard's focus seemed to be on personal luxury rather than serving the public. Her behavior alienated both residents and municipal employees, many of whom watched helplessly as the town crumbled under her leadership. Public resources that should have been directed towards essential services were instead diverted to fund Henyard's personal desires, leaving Dalton's infrastructure and services to deteriorate. The financial mess Henyard created was so dire that it wasn't until a former police chief blew the whistle that the full scope of her corruption was revealed. The details of Henyard's alleged actions demonstrate not only gross mismanagement, but also a blatant disregard for the people she was elected to serve. Once seen as an untouchable figure, Henyard's empire of extravagance has now come crashing down, and the town is left to pick up the pieces. With Henyard now in custody, the residents of Dalton are left to grapple with the aftermath of her actions. Their once thriving community has been left financially ruined, and it remains to be seen whether they will ever fully recover. Trust in local government has been severely damaged, and the scars of Henyard's time in office may linger for years to come. As the legal proceedings unfold, Dalton residents can only hope for justice and accountability, hoping that their town can rebuild and that such a catastrophic failure of leadership will never happen again.
The doors are locked here, and there's a sign on the building right now that says it's closed. For how long? Neither residents know.
Recent revelations about Mayor Tiffany Henyard's tenure in office paint an unsettling picture of a leader consumed by self-interest, financial mismanagement, and blatant abuse of taxpayer funds. Despite having her credit card privileges revoked, Henyard organized a lavish $555,000 party for the town of Dalton, which featured high-profile performers such as Whale and Jay Holiday. Whale was paid $30,000 for a 30-minute performance, and Jay Holiday received $20,000 for his set. Additionally, Henyard spent $36,000 on a sound system, staff, comedians, and even rented bouncy houses, which cost $6,600. The event, which was attended by only about 70 people, drew sharp criticism from outspoken community members, such as Jennifer Roberts, who decried the misappropriation of taxpayer funds. Former trustee Valerie Stubbs described the event as nothing more than a wasteful self-promotion scheme, further fueling the public's outrage. Henyard's actions have only intensified public mistrust, as federal investigators and concerned taxpayers closely monitor her every move. However, the most significant turn of events came when Henyard's former ally and right-hand woman, Carmen Carlisle, stepped forward with damning evidence of the mayor's misconduct. For 2 years, Carlisle had a front-row seat to Henyard's alleged misuse of Dalton's funds and claims that the mayor treated the town's budget as her personal piggy bank. Carlisle, initially silent, eventually became the key whistleblower in the case, turning over a stack of receipts to federal authorities. Her testimony has been a bombshell, revealing the inner workings of Henyard's financial mismanagement and the bold actions she took to further her own interests at the expense of the public despite mounting criticism from residents and public figures. Henyard has shown no signs of slowing down, a move that some believe will only make the growing scandal worse. While Dalton's residents cope with the fallout from Henyard's alleged financial fraud and misconduct, the FBI's investigation, fueled by Carlisle's first-hand account, has intensified. The latest revelations shed an even darker light on Henyard's actions in office, underscoring her apparent lack of financial responsibility. Even though her credit card privileges had been revoked, she still went ahead with the extravagant party. As mentioned earlier, the event cost $555,000 and included performances from Whale and Jay Holiday, among other luxuries. The extravagant spending has left the public in shock, especially when contrasted with the town's dire financial situation. Valerie Stubbs' description of the event as a self-promotion scheme captures the general sentiment of those who feel betrayed by Henyard's misuse of public funds. The town's budget, once expected to support essential services for the community, was instead used to fund the mayor's personal taste and lavish lifestyle. The decision to host such an extravagant event for only a small group of people highlights the contrast between Henyard's priorities and the needs of the Dalton residents, who have been struggling to maintain basic services as the investigation unfolds. Henyard's former aide Carmen Carlisle has become a central figure in the case. Carlisle's testimony has provided investigators with crucial information about Henyard's spending habits and her apparent disregard for public welfare. According to Carlisle, Henyard was not only misappropriating funds, but also using her position to promote her own career and image. Carlisle's whistleblowing has provided insight into the true extent of Henyard's actions, leading to the unearthing of receipts that document her financial dealings. Over the years, the community's mistrust in Henyard has only deepened as more details about her alleged misconduct emerge. Critics, including former trustee Stubbs, have pointed out the stark disparity between Henyard's extravagant spending and the low turnout for her events. They argue that her actions demonstrate a clear financial mismanagement that has only worsened the town's already fragile economy. Henyard's disregard for Dalton's financial well-being, coupled with her apparent self-promotion, has made it increasingly difficult for residents to trust their leadership despite the growing criticism and the ongoing FBI investigation. Henyard has shown no signs of backing down. Some believe this defiance will only fuel the scandal further, especially as more information about her financial misdeeds comes to light. The FBI's investigation, now bolstered by Carlisle's first-hand testimony, has put Henyard firmly in the spotlight. Federal agents have focused their efforts on uncovering the full extent of her misuse of public funds, including her lavish trips, excessive security detail, and questionable business dealings. They are also looking into her charity work, which, according to reports, may have been another vehicle for self-promotion rather than genuine community support. The FBI's involvement marks a significant turning point in the investigation, signaling the agency's commitment to uncovering every dollar that was misused during Henyard's time in office. For the citizens of Dalton, this is a long overdue response to years of calls for transparency and accountability. Activists like Brittany Norwood have long been vocal about the need for a thorough investigation, and the FBI's intervention is seen as a necessary step in addressing the town's financial crisis and holding Henyard accountable for her actions. As Henyard's downfall continues to unfold, Dalton residents are forced to grapple with the devastating consequences of her actions. The town has been rocked by the scandal, and many are struggling to comprehend how their leader could have been so reckless with their money. Some have likened the situation to a reality TV show, where Henyard presented herself as a glamorous, larger-than-life figure, while the town's financial reality was crumbling beneath her. Yet, despite the overwhelming evidence and mounting public outrage, Henyard has continued to act as though nothing has changed. She has maintained her image as a confident and self-assured leader, even as federal agents have reportedly been using advanced surveillance techniques to track potential wrongdoing by her and her political allies. The stark contrast between Henyard's public persona and the financial catastrophe she has caused has left many locals frustrated, and confused the situation in Dalton has become increasingly surreal, with the mayor appearing to ignore the growing calls for accountability and transparency. While the town's residents have watched in dismay as their once thriving community has teetered on the brink of financial collapse, Henyard continues to push forward with her image of business as usual. However, the mounting pressure from federal investigators and the public's growing frustration may soon force her to confront the reality of her actions when Henyard finally turned herself into the FBI. It sent shockwaves through Dalton. One moment, she was carrying on with her daily activities as if nothing had happened. The next, she voluntarily surrendered to federal custody. This dramatic turn of events has left many wondering why she would suddenly give up her opulent lifestyle. Some speculate that Henyard may be attempting to reach a deal with federal prosecutors, offering to expose other individuals involved in her alleged schemes in exchange for leniency regardless of her motivations. Henyard's public image has crumbled. Sources indicate that she is unable to pay her legal expenses, which led her lawyer to drop her case. The once flawless image of the super mayor has been shattered, and Henyard now finds herself facing the stark reality of jail life. Her rise to power, fueled by financial mismanagement and a network of influence, appears to have come to a screeching halt as the investigation continues and more details emerge. The residents of Dalton must cope with the considerable harm Henyard's actions have caused. The damage to the town's finances, the erosion of public trust, and the betrayal of the community's faith in their elected officials will leave a lasting impact on the town for years to come. Tiffany Henyard's tenure as mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has been a scandal-laden period that has left the town reeling under nearly $20 million in debt and millions of dollars unaccounted for. As her financial mismanagement and corrupt actions continue to come to light, the town grapples with the aftermath of her reign. Henyard's actions, which range from extravagant spending sprees to allegations of sexual misconduct and intimidation, have not only caused financial ruin, but also fostered a toxic atmosphere that undermined the community's trust in local government. The saga of Henyard's rise and fall has become a cautionary tale about unchecked power, personal greed, and the far-reaching consequences of governmental corruption from the very start of her administration. Henyard exhibited a level of audacity and control that was unsettling to many residents of Dalton. As the town's finances began to spiral into crisis, with debt mounting and funds mysteriously disappearing, Henyard made a controversial move to pass an ordinance that would slash the pay of her successor to a mere $25,000 a year. This move, widely seen as an attempt to ensure that no one could challenge her power, was just one example of how Henyard sought to consolidate control over the town, further exacerbating the financial woes already plaguing Dalton. The town's fiscal crisis was compounded by Henyard's blatant disregard for financial prudence. One of the most shocking revelations came when it was revealed that Henyard spent $440,000 in a single day on Amazon, a staggering figure that symbolized her recklessness with taxpayer dollars. This extravagant purchase was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to the wasteful spending under her leadership, and it was one of the many decisions that would ultimately draw the attention of federal and state authorities. The Illinois State Controller had to intervene, halting vital payments to Dalton to stop further financial hemorrhaging as the town continued to collapse under Henyard's leadership. Residents sought help from outside sources. Desperate for a way forward, they turned to former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who, in a controversial move, was hired for $400 an hour to help clean up the mess Henyard had left behind. This unusual and costly measure underscored just how dire the situation had become. Lightfoot's intervention, however, was not enough to stop the town's further decline. By the time Henyard's financial mismanagement came under federal scrutiny, Dalton's finances were in tatters, and the town was on the verge of collapse. Henyard's reign was not just marked by financial mismanagement, however. Allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse of power soon emerged, further tarnishing her image. Former employees came forward with claims of mistreatment, including lawsuits alleging wrongful termination for refusing to take part in questionable schemes. These revelations painted a disturbing picture of an administration that used its power to intimidate and control those who dared to speak out. The most significant turning point in the scandal came when Henyard's former right-hand woman, Carmen Carlisle, turned whistleblower, revealing a stack of receipts and testimony that exposed the mayor's financial mismanagement. Carlisle's courageous decision to come forward provided critical evidence to federal investigators, who began their own investigation into the mayor's actions. This development sparked hope among the community that Henyard's days in power were numbered, and that justice would finally be served. However, Henyard's refusal to step down despite the mounting evidence against her raised serious questions about the integrity of the legal system. As more and more accusations were leveled against her, from embezzlement of public funds to allegations of sexual assault, Henyard continued to cling to power, defying the public outcry for her resignation. This defiance fueled further suspicions that Henyard was trying to use her position to avoid facing the consequences of her actions, and that her time in office was not just about serving the public, but about protecting her personal interests at any cost. The growing crisis reached a boiling point when Henyard, in a dramatic turn of events, voluntarily surrendered to the FBI, leading many to wonder if this was an attempt to strike a deal with federal prosecutors. Despite the overwhelming evidence against her, Henyard's defiance continued to alienate many residents, who saw her ongoing presence as mayor as a slap in the face to the community she had betrayed. Many speculated that Henyard may have surrendered in a bid to negotiate a reduced sentence or provide information about her political allies in exchange for leniency. Even after her surrender, the questions surrounding her motives and actions remained unanswered. The once polished image of Henyard, who had been seen as a powerful and charismatic leader, had unraveled into a stark reality. The community that had once admired her was now left to deal with the aftermath of her corruption and mismanagement. Henyard's extravagant lifestyle, including constant security details and lavish spending, had been funded by taxpayer dollars, and the town of Dalton was left to pick up the pieces as federal agents dug deeper into Henyard's financial dealings. It became clear that her actions had been far-reaching and destructive. Investigators scrutinized not only her personal finances, but also her business ventures, campaign funding, and even her charity work, uncovering layers of corruption that extended well beyond the local government. This extensive investigation signaled that Henyard's downfall was not just about her personal indulgence, but about a broader network of corruption that had taken root within the town. In addition to her financial mismanagement, Henyard's tenure was also marked by allegations of sexual impropriety during official visits, including claims of sexual assault against staff members and intimidation tactics aimed at silencing those who dared to oppose her. These allegations painted a disturbing picture of an administration steeped in abuse of power, with Henyard using her position to shield herself from accountability. As more former employees came forward with their own stories of mistreatment, it became clear that Henyard's actions had far-reaching consequences that extended beyond financial corruption. As the FBI continued its investigation, the residents of Dalton found themselves at a crossroads. While Henyard's arrest brought a sense of relief to some, it also raised new questions about the future of the town and its ability to recover from the damage done under her leadership. The community's trust in local government had been shattered, and the road to recovery would be long and arduous. The town would need to rebuild infrastructure, restore financial stability, and address the emotional toll that Henyard's actions had taken on its citizens. One of the most pressing concerns for the people of Dalton was how to rebuild the town's finances, which had been left in a state of disarray. Years of reckless spending, corruption, and mismanagement had drained the town's coffers, and the cost of cleaning up the mess left behind was astronomical. The financial devastation caused by Henyard's actions would take years to undo, and the town's residents were left grappling with the uncertainty of how to move forward despite the challenges. There was a glimmer of hope for the future. The community's resilience and determination to rebuild were evident in the way that local residents and former employees rallied for justice and accountability. There was a shared understanding that the only way forward was to rebuild the town from the ground up, ensuring that transparency, trust, and accountability would be central to the rebuilding process. The hope was that the lessons learned from Henyard's time in office would serve as a foundation for a more transparent, ethical, and effective government in the future. As the legal proceedings against Henyard unfolded, the question remained whether the town would be able to restore faith in its leaders and emerge from this dark chapter stronger than before. While Henyard's downfall had brought some measure of justice, the town still faced an uphill battle to heal the wounds caused by years of mismanagement and corruption. The financial devastation, the broken trust, and the emotional scars left by Henyard's actions would not disappear overnight, but amidst the uncertainty and difficulty, the people of Dalton had a chance to transform their narrative. The community's collective strength and determination to reclaim their town's future would play a pivotal role in charting a new path forward, one that would prioritize integrity, justice, and accountability. The road ahead would be challenging, but the opportunity to rebuild from the ashes of Henyard's mismanagement represented a chance for true change. The town's ability to heal, rebuild, and grow would depend on the commitment of its residents to ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated in the end. Henyard's fall from grace serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of personal greed and misconduct. It is a cautionary tale of how one individual's actions can ripple through an entire community, leaving lasting scars that take years to heal. But it also represents an opportunity, a chance for the people of Dalton to reclaim their future, rebuild their trust in government, and ensure that their leaders are held accountable for their actions. The road ahead may be long, but the journey to recovery begins with a single step toward justice and reform.